Welcome to the Trusted Plan podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jim.
And we believe by providing education and guidance, we can help you retire with peak confidence. And Jim, football season's halfway through?
Yeah,
and
about halfway.
We were way off with our predictions. It's not
Which
good.
is unusual.
Yeah, so...
because we nailed it last year.
That's right. So we're pretty much going to be, taking the money from Michigan football and kind of putting it into Detroit Lions.
Yeah, all Lions.
All in, yeah. So for the ladies who constantly email me saying, why are you talking about football on this show, if you want to call it a show?
Oh, it is.
You're in luck because we're not going to talk about it anymore, right?
We're officially done. We've had enough.
So we got Michigan State this weekend, and Michigan is favored remarkably.
Okay. The home field advantage, I guess.
I don't know. I think they're favored by reputation only at this point. So, yeah, let's take the Spartans and the points.
All right, there we go.
All right, so, Jim, we love HSAs, right?
We do. Talk about them a lot.
We love HSAs, and why is it? The triple tax-free benefits, right?
Yep. Every money, all the money you put into an HSA, it's a pre-tax contribution, so it lowers your taxes today. You can invest that money so it grows tax-free and withdraws tax-free when used for medical expense. So that's our favorite way to do it, is use it over many years, or leave it invested over many years so that you can really maximize each of those tax options.
Yeah, you got to invest it if you want that triple tax-free benefit to be maximized. So if you have a high deductible health insurance plan, it's one of the best things that you can do, given your health insurance choice, if that's suitable for you. An HSA is one of the best things you can do. In fact, we would, contribute to the 401k to get the match, because anytime you get the match, you get 100% ROI on your money.
For sure.
But then we want to look immediately to the HSA, because it's like the benefits of a pre-tax 401k, a traditional 401 and a Roth 401 all tied in together. So people could make the argument, do enough in the 401 to get the match, and then immediately pivot to max out the HSA. And then once you've maxed out your HSA, go back to the 401 and keep adding to that. And depending on how much you make and your capacity to save, we can work with you on what makes sense here. But also, we want to make sure that you're in the right health insurance plan as well. You probably shouldn't choose the health insurance plan just because of the HSA, in case you have some medical expenses that you can't cover. So,
speaking of the medical expenses, though, it's worth noting the reason we like it so much is because there's not a requirement as to when you reimburse yourself for the medical expense. So, in our mind, a best practice is save your receipts from today, even though you're paying for medical out of pocket, and then reimburse yourself 10, 15 years down the road when you can use that, when the HSA money has grown, and at that point can be withdrawn tax-free.
There you go. So we're going to take the money out of the HSA in retirement to pay for medical expenses that you're accruing, that you're experiencing at that time, or from in the past, like Jim said, with your past receipts. But we want to be careful not to delay our withdrawals too long, because this is something that I've only read about one time, and we haven't really thought about that much because HSAs are so new. In fact, we've never had anyone die, one of our clients die with an HSA where we're figuring out what to do with it. But Reuters has a question here. Someone submitted a question to Reuters, and they answered the question, upon the death of an HSA account holder, what happens? So this made us really start to think, hey, maybe this is something we need to address more. So Jim, what happens if you have an HSA and then you die?
Yeah, I think this is a really important topic because, when you think about saving, you think about some of these accounts you feel like you want to save forever. But an HSA is not one of those accounts, because once you die, it ceases to be an HSA, and all those gains that were tax-free for the plan, for the account owner, now go to a beneficiary, but those gains are now taxable.
Assuming it's the second death.
Good point. Yep.
Yeah, because we got the surviving spouse.
Yep. If it's a surviving spouse, then they could inherit the HSA and continue to use it as designed.
So there's a parallel there for IRA, Roth IRA, HSA, surviving spouse, exactly the same It just carries on
Becomes
as
their
if
own,
it,
yeah.
just carries on as if it were their own already. But non-surviving spouse, so usually like the next generation, kids, then it ceases to be an HSA anymore, and everything has to come out and get taxed.
Yeah.
So then we don't have our triple tax-free benefit anymore.
Right. Yeah, it definitely loses the excitement when looking at it as an account that you would pass on. It's definitely not an account that would be a goal with.
Now, one of the interesting things is usually a lot of the medical expenses that people would incur are in the last year of life. So let's say you're sick and you're not managing your own stuff, and someone pays your medical expenses from a different account or whatever. Up to 1 year after your death, your beneficiary can still use that money to pay medical expenses that were due. But I'll also say this: if the person doesn't have an estate, you're not going to be paying those medical bills. Okay, I'll give you an example with my dad. He was in the hospital a lot in the last few months of his life, and so we got bills for like $5,000 from the hospital, which is kind of up to the out of pocket on the Medicare Advantage plan he had. Well, when you die, you don't pay that. Okay, you don't.
Right.
You just don't, because they go after your estate, and if you have an estate that's set up properly, then there is no estate for them to go after.
Right.
So same thing if you had a credit card in your name only, and then you die, like no one's paying that bill. They eat it.
Yeah.
So this part here where you'd pay medical expenses from the HSA after death, I don't see why I would do that if I was the beneficiary, based on personal experience. But the point is, I would be paying taxes on that account balance when the money comes after the death. Okay. So what's kind of the best practice then if we're retired and we have, let's say, $100,000 in the HSA? What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth having this discussion and moving the HSA up in priority, as far as the withdrawal priority. When do we start taking money out? I think you can make a case to start using money much earlier in retirement, taking it before you do IRA withdrawals, obviously before Roth withdrawals, but maybe that's something you can live on for a while, reimburse yourself for past medical expenses, current medical expenses, and live on it for a while. And maybe that frees up some money that you can do a Roth conversion with or something like that. So I just think it's worth having that conversation about utilizing the HSA sooner in retirement and allowing these other accounts that we know pass efficiently to the next generation, saving those for later.
Yeah, I like the idea of maybe leaning on the HSA in any particular year so you could do a Roth conversion at a low tax rate. I also like the idea of stretching it out. So let's go on that example of a $100,000 account. Maybe you start taking $10,000 per year when you reach age 65. So, with earnings, it'll last longer than 10 years, but probably not till 85. I didn't do the math.
Right.
And life expectancies, 85-ish. So I like that idea. Okay. And like you said, then you keep the Roth going because it's going to pass on more efficiently. But the traditional IRA is going to have your required minimums at 73 and 75. You have your brokerage account. So back to Roth conversions, right? We have from the end of work until Social Security begins, possibility of living on that brokerage account, living on that non-qualified account. The HSA could be added to that, like you were saying. But we go for the bank account, the non-qualified account. Then we have the IRAs that have to come out, and so the HSA could be stretched out all throughout that time period, or it could be, more upfront loaded, like Jim says, or it could be back loaded. But then you run the risk of the next generation paying all the tax. So we love HSAs. We want you to contribute the max if you have the appropriate health insurance plan. But we want you to be aware of the triple tax-free benefits while you're, accumulating, but also this risk of having money in the account when you die.
Yeah. Yep. Considering it as an early retirement account to live on for a bit.
So if you're thinking about an HSA, or if you need help investing your HSA, or if you're thinking about retiring and you want to figure out the best plan for your HSA, please reach out to us at peakwm.com and you can schedule an appointment online.